The next stop is 36th Street.
Hello everybody. Today is Thursday, February 7th, 2019. It is around 11:30 p.m. at nighttime, and I'll be doing a walking video of Steinway Street and 30th Avenue. So right now I got off at the Steinway Street Station. It's served by the R train and the M train, but right now the E is stopping here because it is late night. Looks like it started to drizzle a little bit, so I apologize if there's some water droplets that accumulate on the lens. I'll try not to wipe it too often. But this is Steinway Street and 34th Avenue. At this time of night, most of the businesses here aren't open, so you'll see a lot of shuttered gates and closed doors. It isn't even like the start of the weekend, so not too many people are out at this time. During the daytime, and especially when people are off from work, this is a very busy shopping center. This side of Steinway Street actually isn't really the shopping district. It's more commercial and some like retail, real estate agencies, doctor's offices, a gym. Once I walk past Broadway, that's when there's more stores geared towards retail and food establishments. Looks like that restaurant still is open. They're still doing business. New York is known as the city that never sleeps, so there has to be places that are open. You'll be surprised who comes in at like 2 o'clock in the morning because they work the night shift at a hotel, or they're like a doorman who gets off at odd hours, or they're like overnight transportation officers, or who knows what kind of industry they work in. There's an interesting restaurant across the street called ⁴ It's a Colombian restaurant. So as you can see, pretty much every single business here is closed. Even the Duane Reade across the street is closed. Chase Bank is closed, but of course you can always enter using your ATM card or debit card to use the machines. Here's a staple of Astoria food that never really goes away, are these food trucks. If there's one business that can survive to be open 24 hours, it's food, because people will be hungry no matter what time of day it is. Steinway Street has seen a lot of businesses go and come throughout the years. Even across the street you see a for sale sign and for rent. Here's a retail space that's available. The thing is, Steinway Street, even though it's a commercial area and it gets a lot of foot traffic, the landlords here, they're known to charge a lot of high rents to businesses. So many of them who don't have the business and the revenue to come in, they can't afford to stay here. And that drives the neighborhood out. An interesting thing about these crosswalks, the DOT recently put them in because people were walking in the middle of the street to cross to the other side, and it was very dangerous. So they decided to add some mid-block crossings. The distance from Broadway to 31st Avenue, which is about 3 minutes walking from here, is pretty long. So it's only natural that people want to cross the street mid-block in order to go to shops like Zio's and Victoria's Secret and Easy Pickings. Who has time to walk all the way to that corner on 31st Avenue and cross the street the right way? It definitely is pretty quiet around here. Even though Astoria is a neighborhood that isn't really known for violent crime, I wouldn't feel comfortable walking the street alone at night if you're a vulnerable group of the population, such as the elderly or a child or someone with a physical limitation. Here's the Banana Republic factory. It used to be a Gap Kids, but it changed. So right over there is the Q101 bus, which runs on Steinway Street. It starts its run in East Midtown, right over the Queensboro Bridge. Around this time, the scheduling is very, very far and infrequent, so it's not too reliable. But on the other hand, there aren't too many people waiting at bus stops like across the street there, so your ride is likely to be very quick. Now during Christmas time, I don't know who organizes this, but maybe it's a community group or like a neighborhood association, they'll play Christmas music on the speakers to entice people to shopping on these blocks here, to encourage business. You see, here's another mid-block crossing. Going back to the crime fact, I've heard of stories which happened on this block of men catcalling women who walk alone here, or people who've gotten into altercations outside the bars and restaurants. But I'm sure that happens in other parts of the city too. It's not just limited to places like here. You always have to be mindful of your surroundings and know what happens around you. Even though you read up or you hear that a neighborhood or an area is safe, you always have to use your own senses and make sure you stay aware. Now here's some scaffolding. I don't know what business is going up, but they also have to put protections for the tree here. Looks like it's a residential project going up. Oftentimes the developers will build a residential project on the top floors and then put a commercial establishment on the first floor. I hope the water's not getting too bad on the lens. I just wiped it again. So I'm about to turn left onto 30th Avenue. There's signs along the avenue that claim it's the heart of Astoria, and I'm guessing that it probably is mostly right because it's in between all the main avenues and geographically at the middle of Astoria. Astoria was actually named after the wealthy billionaire John Jacob Astor. And Astoria wasn't always known as Astoria. It used to be called Newtown. And then I believe Long Island City, which was actually a city, that's why it was called Long Island City. It was separate from New York City. Long Island City acquired the Newtown community and incorporated it into Long Island City. But over time, as Astoria, well, what will become Astoria got more and more developed, the residents and the community wanted to separate themselves from the industrial nature of Long Island City, which was further south. So the neighborhood to the north, they developed their own identity and became Astoria. So Astoria was a separate identity from Long Island City, even though it was still part of it. And today it is still a part of Long Island City. you can still say that people here live in Long Island City, but that fact has been lost to history. Now more commonly it's more frequent to encounter people identifying themselves as Astorian, as being north of 36th Street. I'd say it would be a 36th Avenue. I'd say it would be a safe assumption, and anything south of that would be traditionally industrial Long Island City. And the rain is getting to be a little bit more strong, so I apologize for the clarity, but I just have to be wiping the lens a lot more and more frequent. But if you didn't notice already, 30th Avenue is still open for business. It's not as shuttered as Steinway Street is. Mainly because there's more food establishments here. And going back to Steinway Street was actually named after the Steinway family, and they owned big properties in Upper Astoria, including a mansion which is still, I believe, is still there. It's just owned by a different landowner. And they were also famous for the Steinway piano factory, which still makes pianos today. You can still visit the factory at the end of Steinway Street. Well, near the end of Steinway Street, I believe. I'm not sure if it's actually at the end of Steinway Street on the northern end, but it's pretty close. And I believe you can also book tours with them. So here's Grand Avenue Pizza, still open for business. They close at 1 a.m. in the morning. There's always going to be people wanting a slice of pizza or something to eat. Not all of the neighborhoods closed for business. You got a Japanese restaurant there. I see people still inside. Here's a bar that's still open.
You know what I'm saying? He's like, it's so stupid, but it's so funny.
I can tell some of those people had a little bit too much to drink. Here's Ample Hills. This business is actually an ice cream and dessert place. It started in Brooklyn and moved its way into the neighborhood of Astoria not too long ago. This Rite Aid across the street from me is open 24 hours. Actually, along this stretch of 30th Avenue, there's many businesses here that are open 24 hours. And being near the 30th Avenue Subway Station, that's a very, very big plus for these businesses. United Brothers Fruit Markets is open 24 hours as well. Their produce is very fresh and it always moves. And while I'm on the topic of the subway station also, New York City is one of the few places, if not the only city in the world, which has a subway system that runs 24 hours. It may not be running perfectly and as well as during the weekdays during rush hour, but it'll still run. Like, instead of express trains running, they'll run all the trains local, or they'll have trains skipping certain stops or doing like maintenance on one line, but the other line, which is has stations close by, will be open. Here's Green Bay Organic Foods Supermarket. This is also open 24 hours. Here's the 30th Avenue Subway Station, served by the N and W trains. This station opened last year in June. There's a Manhattan-bound train entering the station. If you didn't believe me when I said the subway runs 24 hours, now you do. I assume it's probably around midnight now, and it's no longer February 7th. If that's the case, it's February 8th. Here is Trade Fair Supermarket, which is open 24 hours. There's 7-Eleven, which is always open 24 hours. And I believe it may be the case throughout the world as well. It's a well-known business that's found throughout the world globally. Here's 30th Street. It's a very dangerous street because it's at a curve and motor vehicles have a hard time seeing people crossing from where I was just crossing the street. So now I'm walking into the quieter part of 30th Avenue. Across the street from me is Athens Square Park. And there's a statue of Athena in the entrance of the park. Astoria was traditionally known as a Greek neighborhood and still is. I believe it may be the largest Greek immigrant population outside of Greece. Here's a public school across the street from me. A very dark street. I don't really feel that comfortable walking down here. I'm sure the rain coming down gives it a little bit of a cinematic effect as well. Looks like someone's throwing out some bedding and furniture. If you didn't know, New York City, they do curbside garbage collecting and recycling. So what businesses and residents do here is put their refuse and their recyclables on the curbside, and then that day or the following day, the city or the private sanitation company will come by and throw it all in the truck. Here's a Dunkin' Donuts, which closed at 11 p.m. so that business is still open late, but it's not open 24 hours, that's for sure. Now here's a business which can't afford to not be open 24 hours, which is the hospital, the Mount Sinai Hospital of Queens. This hospital just recently went through a massive renovation. It used to be very dingy inside and dark, but now there's extra space to accommodate more patients and visitors and other medical staff. It expanded all the way to the back there, and I'll be ending this video here. I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos.